up to explore all things quirky. Joining me are the quick-witted Jason Manford. The quotable Sarah Millican. The quizzical Lisa Gola. And the total quirkaholic Alan Davies. Right, let's hear their buzzers. Jason goes. Quite quirky like that. Sarah goes.
Jazz.
Wow.
It's a migraine.
Yeah. It's jazz musicians in search of a tune. Louisa goes. Does anybody else feel like they're on the wrong medication today? And Alan goes. This first question is on the QT. What's the furthest anyone's ever gone for a brew?
Was it before or after refrigerators?
Oh, definitely before. Does that really help? Does that narrow it down?
No.
I mean, in terms of history, darling, I think there's a lot more before fridge.
Before fridge.
Before fridge. That's how they now do it.
Change the world.
Yeah. Never mind about fridges.
Furthest
The
for a cup of
furthest.
tea. Did they have one on the moon? Did they have one in the Apollo lander?
Not the moon, not quite as far as the moon, but high.
That tea is so... It's important, isn't it? It's in all different parts of life. All, you know, somebody's having a baby, I'll put the kettle on.
Yeah.
You know, your granddad's dying, I'll make a brew. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... It's everything.
Yeah, but it isn't just important to the British, it's important in other parts of the world. Where does it...
The Chinese.
Is it on a plane?
OK,
Is there
you
like a...
can get tea on a plane, but it
Yeah.
wasn't...
No? Is there like a Boyle High Club?
Jason said China.
China.
Someone went to China
Yes.
to get some tea.
OK, so as far as we know, this is one of the highest tea shops in the world. There is a Buddhist and Taoist temple at the very top of Mount Hua and in the Qinglang Mountains, and the climb is treacherous to get up there.
Well, you need a brew.
The one on the right is,
Oh, wow.
is optional, but it involves crossing a section where you have to balance on these wooden
Is that how you
planks.
get down?
It's a 7,000-foot drop, darling, on the other
Oh,
side.
wow.
Yeah. You can hire a safety harness if you want for $5, but its use is not enforced.
Right.
The tea is made from rainwater and mountain springs and snow melt that they gather. It's said to be absolutely
Surprised there's not a
delicious.
Costa up there. Open up across the road.
It's one of China's 5 great mountains. It's got 5 peaks that form the shape of a lotus flower, and each peak has a temple on it. I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's astonishing.
But is it better than Rooibos?
Oh, that's South African tea, isn't it? Rooibos?
I'm so glad that you said it. I didn't know how to pronounce that.
Rooibos.
I've been calling it Ruby Booze for years.
I was 33, still ordering shit-ache mushrooms. So...
In 1952, so in the Second World War, the UK bought up the surplus tea from every country apart from Japan. Apparently, they were terrified it was going to be bad for morale if we ran out of tea. So their top purchases, in terms of weight, were bullets, then tea, then artillery shells, bombs and explosives. Who drank the very first cup of tea? What do you reckon?
Oh, a very long time ago. Probably in China.
Do you think before fridges?
Many years BF.
Yes.
4,000 BF.
Yes. You're absolutely right, it's China. Well, it's a Chinese legend, who knows? It was a Chinese emperor in 2737 BC called Shen Nung, and he's sitting under a tree, and his servant was boiling some water, and some leaves, apparently, from the tree blew into the water, and he thought, I'll have that.
I'm not reboiling the kettle now.
It's boiled now. That took ages to boil that up. Yeah. And now the leaf's gone in.
And I was watching it.
So I'll fish it out or leave it? I'll leave it in.
I'll leave
a bit
it in.
stronger.
Yeah.
I think...
So, actually, if you go right back there, it is tea first. Milk.
Milk
Milk
second.
never.
Tea first. Milk?
Putting milk in that. It's already got leaves in it.
So, how did they find out that you can have milk in it drinking tea? Was he drinking tea and a cow just went past and like...
Eureka! It's a milkmaid having a cup of tea.
I
Don't
love
want to
your...
dip the teat in, though, do you? Oh, listen to them all. The empathy with the udder there. Oh. Can you imagine your own udders going in?
I think it's fair to say you probably can't.
He had tea, then he had a pedicure.
Yes, he certainly looks like he needs very bad hammer toes.
Is that his arm? Oh, no, that's the scenery. Now I can see that. He's got two mountains on his head, Sandy. Who is this weirdo?
He's got a little tea shop on one of them, though.
The story that I don't understand is the Buddhist tradition of how tea was first discovered. So, apparently, according to Buddhists, it grew from Buddha's eyelids. Buddha wanted to meditate for 9 years, and he kept falling asleep, right? Because 9 years, a long time.
Yeah.
That's good meditation.
That's really good. And so, in frustration, he ripped off his eyelids and he threw them to the ground, and that's how the first tea plant grew.
Ripped off his eyelids?
Yeah.
That's extreme.
Just open your eyes.
Yeah.
I know.
And now there's just people whispering on YouTube, so you don't have to rip anything off. That's the new relaxation technique, isn't it?
Oh, that's the
Whisper,
weird...
yeah.
What is that called?
It's got a fancy name. Someone in here will know. There you go. They sort of whisper. Like some of them fold towels and.
Yeah, or pretend they're cutting your hair or something. Have you seen this?
No.
No, and that's because you've got better things to do, frankly.
You know, the mad thing is, it doesn't matter how many shows you've done, they'll have more views than all of us put together. It's unbelievable.
I'll start whispering myself. I can fold a towel.
Your next DVD should be whispered.
Hold on. Am I the only person who noticed that you said DVD?
I did say DVD, yeah.
Who uses DVDs?
Whoa!
What do you...
Unbelievable!
Everyone just glanced over that like that wasn't a crazy thing to say. Like,
Still you.
DVDs!
I'm still on VHS, though.
Yeah.
I played the cassette only yesterday, and you know what happened? It got stuck.
Because
Do you remember when cassettes used to stretch if you'd played them for too long?
you get a little pencil inside.
Why not?
Oh, it's
those
good
were the
time. Good
days.
time.
Well, they get stuck. You'd be driving, and you'd pop one out while you're driving, and then the tape... Oh! It's my best tape! Don't pull it! I can't pull over, it's the M4! Get out with a pencil! Get out! Now wind it on! You know, come on, you're 4 years old, you can do this!
So, not DVDs, what would you just watch it on the...
Like I'm just saying, in the last 2 years, I don't remember like inserting a DVD in anywhere. So it's like it's just a crazy. It's like a crazy thing to say.
I'm just hoping there were a limited range of options of where.
Some DVDs I can't get out. Buenos Aires.
There's no sexual innuendo here. Just the song.
Don't know why you're bothering then. Mount Hua gives a whole new meaning to high tea. What's even quainter than a model village?
A giant boy.
We used to go and see these things, right, as a family.
Still a thing?
My father would get his cine camera out, and then he would just film the model village. He wouldn't film his children. Film the model village, in which nothing happens, nothing moves.
Was it on Super 8 as well, so it sort of went like
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Don't
Then
make
he'd
the
set up a
Super 8 in
projector,
front of
set
him.
up a screen in the
I give
living
it on
room,
you.
put all the lights up, pull the curtains, put it on, and we'd all sit there. Here's the holiday. He's just filmed the village. He's just filmed the model village. we were in Lyme Regis for a fortnight, and this is it.
Do you know about model villages, darling? Is that a thing?
I've never been to one, but full disclosure,
Yeah.
English is one of the languages I speak, so it's not the first. I speak it well.
Yes, no, it's, you and me, both coming along. What's your first language?
Xhosa is my first language.
OK.
So, like, when you say words like Quinn, I might have my own definition of the word Quinn, which doesn't necessarily match yours.
OK, so...
A Quinn is kind of old but cute.
Yes, like me.
I've had 5 DVDs out, so my career to you might be old and cute.
So our suggestion for the world's quaintest thing is the model village within a model village within a model village, which is within the actual village of Burton on the Water. So if you look at those things in the background, those are part of the model village. Then you can see there's another model village, and then right there in the corner is an even smaller model village. It's like a village wormhole. It just kind of keeps going and going.
Man just doesn't want to go home. That's what it feels like. He's developed a hobby that is ridiculous because he hates his life.
I mean, it was built in the 1930s. It took forever. It's actually Grade 2 listed, the entire model village. And you could buy the whole thing with a life-size pub in 2018 for under £600,000 if you wanted. Yeah, I know. Who doesn't be suddenly thinking, oh, model village and a pub? But this is not the oldest model village example in the world. It's beaten by Beaconscott Model Village, which is 90 years old this year, 2019. Wow. It still has 15,000 visitors a month, and it's got the cutest miniature shops. So look at this. The greengrocer's is called Crispy Lettuce. I know, sweet shop, Ivor Cavities. My current favourite, the chemist, Hakes and Pains.
These are things you do when you've met all your basic needs as a human being.
Yes, this is...
I don't think people in Uganda are worried about this stuff.
Anyway, there's another model village called Babbacombe Model Village. Have a look at this. This is a part that, of the model village that they just put in last year. And so that's meant to be me, darling, on the right there.
Oh.
Tall, isn't it?
Well, they very sweetly lent me.
Oh, wow.
Out of interest, any of you who've known me a long time, what's wrong with the model of me?
I've never seen you in a skirt.
Never seen me in a skirt, ever. No. I don't own a skirt. I appear to have ballet pumps on. This is not what a lesbian on television looks like.
That's like Britain squared. Like, unbelievably British.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Anyway, my tits came out well. So... Now, who has type Q blood?
The Queen? No. Is it a trick?
It is a
Is it
trick.
an animal?
It is an animal, yes.
Can you undo that bloody ringer, then?
No.
No.
That's going to...
It's an animal.
It is an animal, darling.
Dog, rhino, giraffe.
Dog, rhino.
Dog, rhino.
So it's horses.
Oh.
I was close there.
Not really.
No, you don't. Dog, rhino, giraffe, no.
No.
If you put all them together, that's an horse.
So humans have 2 types of antigen. So that's the protein that can cause an allergic reaction. You can either have one or both or neither. So you could have A blood, B blood, AB, or type
I don't know
O.
anything about blood.
Horses have 7 different antigens, so they have 7 different blood groups. Type A and type Q are the most common. I don't know why they haven't done them alphabetically.
Yeah, why not A to G?
I don't know. Then there's C, D, J, P and U. I've no idea what that's about.
Well, maybe that's the horse alphabet. Maybe that's how they do.
Oh. So where do we get horse blood from?
The inside of a horse.
No alarm for that. I was going to say that and I thought, that's a bloody alarm. I'm not going to say it. You said it, no alarm.
No alarm because he was right.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can't store it in a blood bank. So the Royal Veterinary College at the University of London, they keep 4 horses on site, and their entire job is just to donate blood.
Do they get a cup of tea and a biscuit?
They do. They're currently called Miller, Darcy, Freddie and Sonny.
I remember when my daughter was born and we donated to...
You donated it?
Yeah, we donated it. I've got 5 kids, I was like, someone else have this one.
No one for blood.
But you can donate the umbilical cord.
Yes.
Anthony Nolan, I think the charity's called, and they're like vampires. They're at the door, like, waiting. Have they had it yet? Have they had it yet? Have they had it yet? We're like, we're busy having a baby, mate. I mean, I wasn't busy, obviously. I was playing Football Manager, but... It's worth doing.
The weirdest thing in terms of donating blood is the horseshoe crab, which is an extraordinary thing. It's massively important in the medical industry. There they are, the fourth oldest creature on Earth, the horseshoe crab. But it has something really specific, a compound in the blood that's unbelievably important called Limulus ambosite lysate. And it's used by the medical and pharmaceutical industries to ensure that their products are free of bacterial contamination. Look at them, they're extracting blood there from the horseshoe crabs. And it costs upwards of $25,000 per quart because it is so important. So, horseshoe crabs have no immune system. So because they can't develop antibodies to fight infection, they contain a number of compounds that will inactivate bacteria and fungi and viruses and so on.
They look like they're at Yo Sushi. Which is ironic, being a crab.
Are they alive?
They are alive, and then they are returned to...
Oh, are they? OK, that's nice. That's good. Or are you saying, like when my mum said the dog went to a farm? Is that... No, and then they return to the sea. Yeah, all right. Oh, good.
They just float away.
Just a little plaster, just here. What about dog and cat blood? I mean, it's really important that we have it. Apparently, the Royal Veterinary College runs donation sessions, and you can go along. And people do it, apparently, because maybe they didn't give blood themselves or they feel good about it. What about if you wanted to operate on a bird?
If I wanted to operate on a bird...
Well, I don't think you should do it. If one wanted to operate on a bird, where would you get bird blood?
Just like the windows of skyscrapers.
All around the bottom of a wind farm. That's the same noise as when the cow got his udder in the team.
All bird blood is entirely interchangeable.
They could do it in flight.
It's a tube.
Just refuelling, yeah, refuelling.
So a robin could donate to an ostrich. What's the problem with that, though?
It'll take 45 robins.
Yeah, you need a lot.
It would take 6,000.
All right, there you go.
Is robin a bird?
OK.
No, he's a sidekick. He's a kind of a ward. So a crime-fighting billionaire.
Because I got started on tits.
Yeah.
Hey. I don't like this. You guys are having too much fun without me. So a robin is a bird?
Yeah.
I'm not, like, into birds, but when you say robin, my brain just goes, there's a human being who donates blood.
Ostriches.
Ostriches, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clear out the confusion.
Yeah. Oh, I'm here for you. It's OK.
Thank
it's all
you.
good. There was an Australian gentleman called James Harrison. He used to be known as the man with the golden arm. And he saved 2.4 million babies by giving blood nearly every week for 60 years.
Your shirt. It's got your...
Oh, yes. That's you in about 10 years.
10? Did he always go to the same place to give blood, or did he travel? You know, the biscuits are different where you go. Do you know that? In Scotland, you get a Tunnocks tea cake. Shut up.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is
Which
it worth...
an amazing biscuit.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
Yeah. If you want to know anything about British biscuits, that's the woman for it.
So, yeah, I was always surprised the adverts. I was like, would you like to save a life? And I'm always like, yeah. The advert should just say, do you like biscuits? Do you fancy a sit-down? Do you like tea? I'm in.
I agree.
He was an amazing guy. So his blood contained disease-fighting antibodies which fight rhesus disease. That's when the blood of pregnant women attacks their unborn babies. He was awarded the Order of Australia, which is the country's highest honour, in 1999. And he made over 1,000 separate blood donations and saved 2.4 million babies.
Wow.
Wow.
Legend.
That's amazing.
Makes the rest of us look, you know, like we've done nothing.
Yeah.
I did it once and I was like, not again. Because it's needles. I'm just scared of needles.
I just wait for one of my piles to pop and then I give it. I just like the noises. I like the noises.
Horses have type Q blood, but there's no chance they can share it with you.
It's like a panto.
I like it.
Oh, yes, it is.
Let me just explain what's happening here.
What the hell's going on?
Have you been to a pantomime?
Oh, yeah, those things are horrendous.
Yeah.
I don't want to see 70s British people do weird things.
Well, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So... Speaking of queues, what's the worst thing about being held in a queue?
Can I put something out that happened to me that's related to queues that I think I feel like I was a bad person for doing this, but I shouldn't feel.
What I love is that you ask my permission. Alan never bloody asks.
I'm in a new country. You guys are kicking people out. I don't know. So I was in Australia last year, and a friend of mine was suggested we go have some dim sum. So we get to the dim sum place, and there's a queue. And then someone who's pregnant comes, and then they all let her go to the front of the line. I'm like, no, you don't go to front. It's for dim sum. You know what I mean? Am I a bad person for not letting a pregnant woman in the front of the line for dim sum?
Yes.
Yeah.
For dim sum?
Yeah.
OK, everybody votes. Let's vote. Is that a bad thing? Yes? Yes? Hands up.
For dim sum?
Do you think it's not a bad thing?
Who says it's not a bad thing?
Oh, it's about 52-48.
But look, I mean, even in this queue here, that guy at the end clearly needs a poo. He's bought the... he's bought the roll. He's bent double, and he's still queuing.
Come on, please, can I go to the front? Please, can I go to the front?
Are you equating a woman who's pregnant with a man who needs a shit?
It's the closest we've got.
Let's talk about a different kind of queue. So when you are on the phone...
Oh, yeah.
What's the worst thing about that, do you reckon?
It's when the computer doesn't get your accent. I get that a lot.
I used to ring the Odeon film line.
Oh, yeah. I used to work for them. Be careful.
The Odeon film line to find out... This is going back, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the job I
Find
had.
out the times of the films.
This is even before DVDs.
Yes, before So which Odeon cinema are you interested in?
Yeah.
And I would say, Holloway.
Yeah.
And it would say, did you say Manchester? Every time!
That's exactly it.
No similarity between the two words. There's almost no letters that are the same.
Actually, that was just one of us. Bolton, did you say Baghdad?
I can't stand the music. I can't stand when they play music.
Oh,
do you,
yeah.
when you're on the phone?
When I was a kid, they used to play Kenny G all the time. I literally thought Kenny G was on the other side helping me just...
So the thing I like about playing music on the telephone is the idea of it was discovered entirely by accident. So we're talking about the early 1960s, and there was a guy called Alfred Levy, and he discovered the whole thing by accident. His factory's phone lines developed a fault, and there was a loose wire touching a metal girder on the building, and it had turned it into a giant receiver, and audio being broadcast from a radio station next door was transmitted through the wire and could be heard on the calls which had been put on hold. And he took a patent out for the telephone hold program system, and it solved the problem of dead air. That's the bit people don't really like, is the bit where they don't really hear anything. Apparently, the worst hold music ever, there was a company in 2001 called Avaya, and they did a study in the UK. They found a clothing firm specialising in larger sizes was playing fat-bottomed girls. There was a mail-order company playing Hanging on the Telephone by Blondie. And a hospital played Chopin's Funeral March. I know.
Do they have the thing in Britain where they call you and they try to sell you stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
They call you and they say, We're ringing you about the accident that wasn't your fault. And I say to them, how did you hear about that?
Just stood in his own piss. This has literally just happened now. This is so weird.
Are you watching me? Are you watching me?
The other thing to do is, when they say is the accident that wasn't your fault, is to start weeping and going, it was me, and I knew you'd find out. I feel terrible.
I find the weirdest ones is even from your own bank when they ring you and they go, I just need to identify you. And you go, you rang me. Like, who are you, Barbara?
I had an agreement with my bank to only contact me by email because it was easier when I was on the road and stuff, and they rang me once to say if I still didn't want to be contacted on the phone.
Right. What is this not?
The quipu?
Yes, I think they've slightly spoiled my display by naming it. Props, a tiny little detail.
The P45 being filled in at the moment.
On your way out, just be careful if you see a little elf with all its stuff. Little P45 in his hand. I thought I was being helpful.
Quipu. Anybody know where quipu comes from?
African?
It is not.
Asian?
Are you going to go all the way around the world?
Yeah.
I'll just wait.
Is it European?
I'm going to say Machu Picchu to you.
Oh, Peru.
It is from the Inca people. And this is one we've made ourselves.
Or you put around your neck?
Well, here's the thing. We don't really know what it's for, but it is currently being deciphered. And it is possible that we're about to make us like a Rosetta Stone kind of breakthrough. So the Incas, they had the biggest empire in the Americas in the 15th century. Astonishing. And they had a really wide communication system, but it was long thought that they never learned to write, which seems astonishing, because when you're having something that complicated to organise, you'd think you would need to write things down.
Is that one of them? Because I've got a theory about the writing.
So there was a poet, a Spanish poet, Garcilaso de la Vega, in 1609, and he wrote about the Incas having an admirable method of counting everything in the Incas' kingdom, including all taxes and tributes, both paid and due, which they did with knots in strings of different colours. So initially thought to be just numerical information, but the new research suggests it may actually be a form of writing, and it may contain stories and songs and records. Because they all have different lengths, they all have different knots in them, they have different colours, and we just don't really know. Now, the Spanish recognised the importance of these quipus because they declared them satanic messages, and unfortunately they destroyed every example that they could find. But there is a professor of anthropology at St Andrews University, Sabine Hyland, and she's been studying them. She says they come in 14 colours, allow for 95 unique patterns, which is within the range of a writing system, and some quipus have as many as 1,500 strings.
It'd be great if you could learn it. You could pull out your earphones and be like, says banana.
There's a Harvard University anthropologist, and he discovered a Spanish census document from the 1670s, and it coincided with 6 quipus that he had in his database. And he found the Spanish document referred to 132 people, and there were 132 chords in the quipu. So it is possible if we can make the two things work together. Now, what is this woman queen of? She's called Frances Lockett of Hyde.
Hyde, in Manchester.
What, does that upset you?
No, I didn't know there was any royalty from
mill.
Manchester.
I've been to Manchester, there's loads of queens, darling.
It's all the better for it.
I know.
Absolutely.
Quite right. What do we reckon? She's a rather fine-looking woman, Frances Lockett.
It doesn't look like a very authentic crown.
Well, it's a really sweet thing, and I don't know if we shouldn't bring it back. So from the 1920s to the 1980s, there was a tradition of crowning queens of industry. So women chosen to represent British industries, and some of them had crown jewels. So Frances was Cotton Queen, and she was an actual weaver, so she had to know all about it. And the idea grew out of the May Queen traditions, so it was promoting British industry, obviously, but it was also hoping that the practice would give the workers something to celebrate. So this is an industry day.
Out to Paris for the day?
Out to Paris, yes. Great, isn't it? So the first railway queens were crowned in the 1920s, and then the idea it spread to other ones.
Brilliant.
And they weren't really beauty contests. So Frances Lockett, when she became Cotton Queen, she had to answer technical questions. She was a weaver, and she did really know about it. And then they had to go and open events and spread the word about the industry and so on. And American companies got involved as well. The Zion Meat Company, named Jean Courtney their sausage queen during National Hot Dog Week in 1955.
Things are picked up.
So we've made crowns for you because I think you all deserve them. If you want to pop them on. Now, Sarah,
Yes.
you're from South Shields, is
Yes.
that right? So glassware would seem
OK.
entirely appropriate.
But people have been glassed there, so that's true, no?
Jason, cotton, obviously, cotton from Manchester.
Yeah, because we're just massive on growing cress in a dark room.
Yeah.
Love it.
Alan's got veggie sausages, which we thought was appropriate. And Louisa, do you know why you've got a centrifuge on your head?
This is what we wear at a football game in South Africa.
Oh, it's a centrifuge, which is a scientific thing, and this is terribly pleasing. 1.6% of all exports from South Africa are centrifuges. So we just thought we'd make a hat for you.
I don't even know what a centrifuge is.
But this is mine. You're going to help me.
Yeah, I need to come and help you
Come and
with
help
that
me. So you may or may not know this, but I'm slightly passionate about model railways. In fact, I'm currently building one in my office at home. So
You're going to build a little mini one inside it?
Yes. So, darling, I think we have to hold it very flat, see if it'll work. But I was very pleased with the hat.
Hold on,
Okay.
hang on, train, calm down.
Yeah, and we'll just see if it... So, hold the hat flat. Well, thank you very much.
In South Africa,
Yeah.
we wear this to a football game. It's like a helmet, and then we just paint it, and we call it a makarap.
A makarab.
A makarapa.
Hey, macarapa.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was.
These are real. Can I have one?
They're all veggie, darling, so yes, there, you can help yourself. Eat your hat. Are you a veggie, darling? No.
No, but you're allowed to have them.
There was a railway queen called Janet Taylor. She once gave 8 speeches over a single weekend. The most extraordinary one, a woman called Audrey Mawson. She was a railway queen. She was sent to Russia in 1936 on a controversial peace trip to meet Joseph Stalin. Anyway, she was the second celebrity to switch on the Blackpool illuminations.
Oh.
I know.
Crikey.
I would love to do that.
When I went, it was... What's his name who sang I Am the One and Only? Chesney Hawkes.
Oh, wow.
He turned on the Blackpool lights and then he did One and Only. And then he finished it and he went, "Thank you, Blackpool." And we said, "Thank you," because we're polite. And he said, "Merry Christmas." We said, "Merry Christmas, Chesney." He says, "Do you want another song?" And 5,000 people went, "Have you got another one?"
Right, hats away,
Okay,
please.
good idea.
Thank you very much. Here's a question about quids. Why are goods more likely to be priced at 99p rather than rounded up to a quid?
Because it looks less.
It is one of the reasons. It's not the main reason.
When I used to... I had a job with a
How many jobs did you have?
Oh, I've had a... I mean, I'm still getting away with this one.
Says who?
When I was... yeah, well... Well, I used to work for a lovely, dear old man who's no longer with us, Mr. Patel, at a local
This is
shop.
like Graham Norton with the red chair, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. I used to work for a lovely old man called Mr. Patel back when I was 16, and he had a corner shop, and everything was priced £4.23, £5.67, £8.54. And I always thought it was odd. And one day I said, "Why is it priced like this?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Because it means that you have to go into the till to get change." So basically, he didn't trust me. It basically meant if it's a round number, someone could just give you a tenner and you could pocket that.
That is exactly the reason, darling.
Good old Mr. Patel.
Yes, yes.
Oh, really?
Even now with credit cards and...
I mean, it used to be, not so much now, it's all that contactless and so on, but in the 1870s, there was an American man called James Ritty, and he ran a saloon in Dayton, Ohio, and he noticed that some of the staff were actually pocketing money rather than putting it in the till. And then in 1878, he was travelling to Europe, and he noticed that the ship had a mechanism which counted the number of rotations made by the propellers. And he came home, his brother was a mechanic, and they built a counting machine that could track the number of transactions and so be aware if there were any inconsistencies. And they called this new machine Ritty's Incorruptible Cashier, and they sold it to what eventually became the National Cash Register Company, and they added a cash drawer and a bell, and every transaction had to be rung through, and if you were charging 0.99, it meant you had to go and get a penny change.
Can't believe I got that right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the lad on Slumdog Millionaire, and I'm like...
Also, that picture, is that me in 10 years?
But you were right as well, Sarah, because the fact is £9.99 does look less than £10, and that does play a part in it.
Because you read from the left.
Yeah, you read from the left. And 99p seems like a bargain. There was a wonderful story in the Evening Standard in 2014. They reported on a 99p shop in Barking in Essex, where everything was sold at 99p. They were trying to undercut the local pound shops. But Sam's...
Genius.
I know, it gets better, though. Sam's 99p was then itself undercut when 97p Knockout opened next door. And worse, promoted themselves with a sale where everything was 95p or less. Which brings us to the stranded bag of quavers on the end of a metal spiral that we call general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. It's a lightning round after all. What does the scar on Harry Potter's head look like? Jason.
Lightning.
Lightning isn't a zigzag.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a classical lightning bolt at all. It happens so quickly, in fact, lightning, that our brains can't actually take it in. Even great artists have struggled to depict it accurately. There was a 19th century photographer from Philadelphia called William Nicholson Jennings, and he realised that lightning didn't look the way we have depicted it on paintings. And he took the world's first ever photograph of lightning on the 2nd of September, 1882, and it did look nothing like the lightning in paintings. Photographs of real lightning shows as many as 51 forks. On average, paintings only show just over 2 forks, and Harry's scar has only got 1. All we can say is that his scar looks like the International Organisation for Standardisation, ISO, the symbol for risk of electric shock. Yeah, anybody know what ISO stands for?
Just said it, didn't
Yes.
National Standards Organisation. I've been playing 17 years. I've been playing this game.
It's not an acronym. It's a reference to the Greek word isos, equal, chosen because the acronym would be different in every language. So it would be IOS in English, but it would be OIN in French, and the whole point of the organisation is to keep things standardised.
I feel like we've glazed over a couple of times when you've said that you speak... How many languages?
I speak about 5.
5's like as many as we speak collectively.
No, it's 4 more than me.
4 easily. 5 more than me.
What did you grow up speaking, then? What is it?
I grew up speaking Xhosa.
Does it have clicking in it?
Yeah, like if you greet me in Xhosa, like one of my responses could be ngumqabaqaba, qabile vinika, qaga nqale, oqaqanjelwa ngumqolo, ngumqabelo, naqonda kwagqirha ugqirha manqanqi ngomqolo.
How beautiful is that?
It is a bit like...
To find out what he said before.
Yeah, no,
It's a bit weird, like, because it's my language, so when you clap, it's like...
I know, it's odd, isn't it?
No, but it sounds so
very good, very good.
What would happen if you drank your pint through a straw?
You get punched in the face by the rest of the people in the pub.
Sarah.
You get drunk quicker.
I like the way they've shown us how to say it properly.
Yes.
Get drunk more quickly.
Yes. But people do think that, Sarah. It is a thing, isn't it? Probably it's just that anybody drinking alcohol through a straw is already in the mood to drink quite a lot of alcohol. People used to think you create a vacuum inside the straw that causes the alcohol to evaporate. Another explanation, it could be that because you're too busy sucking the drink and the lack of oxygen can make you feel giddy.
Could it also be because you're getting it all in your mouth?
Yeah, all of it.
That'll be it.
But neither of those explanations really works. How drunk you feel is entirely down to how much alcohol is in your system. It doesn't actually matter how it gets there. Now, what are the best pants to wear if you want to have a baby? I'm looking at you, Jason.
2 people went, none. Both women.
Talking about boys.
Oh, well, I guess he'll want, like, baggier sort of boxers
Sperm-growing
rather
pants.
than tight.
Now say tight ones, say tight ones.
Tight ones?
It should just be Jason's pants, because he'd keep having babies.
That's so true. Long been thought that tight underpants might be bad for fertility. So the idea was if you warm up a man's testicles, the sperm might be of lower quality. But the difference in temperature, about 1 degree centigrade, not enough to damage sperm.
Can I ask how you do damage sperm? Have you got... Wait. Do you have any...
Really small hammer. What are you asking me for? Lots of myths about conception. So a man's sperm has always been thought of as being in some kind of Olympic-style race to the egg, you know, where the strongest swimmer wins. Actually, as long as the sperm is not damaged or deformed. Which of the 250 million sperm reaches the egg is a total lottery. It's not to do with which one is the strongest swimmer.
Oh, right.
And it's not necessarily better for conception that men have a high sperm count. Men with very high sperm counts can struggle to conceive as more than one sperm can fertilise the egg.
Also, you get a bit of a bottleneck. Whereas if you just fire out one good sperm. Go on, John.
Is that your love talk? Go on, John. And that's the end of our walk on the quirky side. This week's winner, with -8, it's Loiso. In second place, with -18, it's Sarah. In third place...
You threw me under the bus, you. I had that Mr. Patel thing, I was pissing it.
In third place, with -20, it's Alan.
Unbelievable.
Which means... in last place, with -26, it's Jason. Thanks to Loiso, Sarah, Jason and Alan. Finally, I leave you with this quirky quote from American comedian Mitch Hedberg. I want to hang a map of the world in my house. Then I'm going to put pins into all the locations that I've travelled to. But first, I'm going to have to travel to the top 2 corners of the map so it won't fall down. Good night. Good evening, and welcome to QI. Tonight, we are quintessentially Q, and taking their cues from me are the quirky Holly Walsh. The quizzical Cariad Lloyd. The quixotic Josh Widdicombe.
Don't know what it means. Don't know what it means.
And for the quadrillionth time, it's Alan Davies. Their buzzers are quintessentially QI. Holly goes. Cariad goes. Josh goes. And Alan goes.
Square 6, Arsenal 0.
It was was a mishmash.
It was a mishmash.
Just for you. Right, here we go. This is a portrait from the Ching Dynasty. First of all, how would you spell Ching, anybody?
With a Q.
Yes, Q-I-N-G. So, why is this woman so made up?
Did she walk too slowly through the makeup department at Army and Navy in Guildford?
Oh, that is the most terrifying thing, isn't it?
My mum paid for me to go for a makeover in one of those.
Did she?
Yes.
Recently?
No, when I was about 17.
Right.
I honestly looked like a woman in her late 80s. I actually looked like Mary Berry. That was what happened.
This is a portrait of Prince Zhun. He was the uncle of the then emperor. So we're talking mid-18th century, and his wife, who was called Lady Jinsei. He's about 60, and she's 14.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those, you know, spring and autumn kind of things. But it's very typical of court paintings of the Qing dynasty because it was traditional for the wives and indeed the concubines of the emperor and his family to be hidden from public view. So this posed a problem if you wanted to do a painting, because you weren't allowed to actually see what the woman looked like. They had to decide to paint the concubines to look like bits from sketchbooks, basically. We have no idea what she actually looked like. This is entirely a made-up portrait.
Is that why
Yes.
It's kind of neutral?
Yes, it's
compared to, like, his detailed face. Hers looks like, you know, when you buy a kid a colouring book and it's like, you could add whatever face you want. Like, that's the basic start of your painting.
It looks like they've started on him, they've really nailed it, then they realise they've got 5 minutes to do her face.
She looks like an emoji, doesn't she?
Yeah.
But the whole concubine thing, I mean, it was considered absolutely crucial to Qing dynasty court life. So the idea was you wanted to make sure that the emperor had multiple offspring, so you wanted to make sure he had a very healthy sex life. In fact, in the 1670s, they started a government branch called the Office of Respectful Service. So there's like a guy outside the bedroom seeing how many times a woman has been in and out that week. Wow. So and it mattered because if you went in and out that week, say 3 times into the emperor's chambers, then you would go up in the concubine standings.
That's quite exhausting for the emperor.
For him.
I think when they go in, he's just saying, we can just watch TV and have a chat.
Let's have a cup of tea and a pillow fight. There are some fantastic empresses. So these are the chief consorts. There's one in particular called Empress Cixi. So she started as a 16-year-old, you know how you do, bit of work experience, low grade, you know, concubine.
Hand jobs, getting out.
Well, she started out in the lowliest position, and then she got herself over 40 years to the highest position. She killed quite a few people on the way.
She killed people?
Yes, she did.
With her hat?
Well... It does look like a mortarboard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It looks like a mortarboard with a toilet flush on the side.
The night before she died, and she knew that she was dying, she's thought to have poisoned her own nephew so that he couldn't take power.
Wow.
I know, she's really a vicious thing.
Wow, let's hope the Queen's listening.
What an end to the crown that'd be.
She presides over a period of technological progress in China that is unparalleled because it's the beginning of trains and cars. But it was a real issue for them because she couldn't really travel in a car because all protocol dictated that whenever she was travelling, everybody needed to be at a lower level than her.
Oh, wow.
Sunroof.
Yeah, that would have been the thing.
Holding her hat on like this.
They couldn't have a chauffeur because the chauffeur couldn't sit below her, so that was a serious issue. And then the British decided to give her a steam train in 1865. It only had 500 metres of track. But it was considered too shocking, and it disturbed the feng shui of the areas. The first successful train they had came later from Germany, about 20 years later, and it had 3 kilometres of track, and she used to take it every day to go to lunch, but she didn't like the sound of the engine, so the carriages were pulled by eunuchs tied to long yellow silks.
Why doesn't British Rail pick that
I don't
up?
know.
That'd be amazing,
Yeah, that
wouldn't
would-
it? Instead of a rail replacement bus service.
Ladies and gentlemen, many apologies. The eunuchs have not turned up today. We've got the wrong yellow silks, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen.
Never mind about that. We've got the wrong eunuchs today, I'm afraid.
One of them's got a penis. We've sent him home.
Right, moving on. What do bacteria talk about?
Is it Love Island?
Other bacteria who aren't in the room.
I love it when by complete chance you're correct. So they are communicating about where the other bacteria are. It's something called quorum sensing. They actually emit and detect each other's chemical signals. And what they basically do is they take a head count to see how many bacteria there are, and they base their activity on how many bacteria they have detected around them.
Like a fight, like there's 10 of us and 4 of them.
It's like the army gathering and going, right, we're ready to go over the top now because we've got enough. Lots of bacteria that cause human diseases, so cholera, pneumonia, staph infections and so on, and they use quorum sensing, so they wait harmlessly inside us until they agree that there's enough, and then they go. It's a bit like social media, right? So one person tweets, but then it is repeated and repeated and repeated till it goes viral, and you have enough to make it a story for a lazy journalist. It was very first observed in the 1970s. There are some bacteria called Vibrio fischeri, and they live in the bodies of the Hawaiian bobtail squid. Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
So the squid gives them accommodation and sugar and amino acid for food, and in return, the bacteria gives the squid the most ingenious defence mechanism by glowing, all of them, all at once, and generating bioluminescence. So the squid is able to control this light, which is created by all these bacteria living there, and basically any potential predator that is looking up at the squid will think it's looking at the moon, because the squid can point this light downwards. Isn't it clever? I know. So it's working with bacteria. In order to do this trick, it's called counter-illumination, and the squid can even use its ink to dim the lights. And it's useless for the bacteria to glow unless there's enough of them.
That seems like a really fair payment.
Yeah.
Like, you get that incredible party trick just from getting some back... Like, if I got that every time I'd had thrush, I would...
I am so in love with the idea of getting thrush and suddenly being bioluminescent.
Yeah. It would definitely be literally the silver lining.
Yes.
It'd be
Oh
also
my
a conversation start, because I'd walk in and I'd go, Holly, you look great. Got through the thrush?
She looks like the moon. She's so itchy. Oh, wow.
What I love is that it has another way of concealing itself if it doesn't have enough to create the light. Have a look at this. It is able to bury itself in the sand.
Oh.
So this is the other way of doing it. Look at this. Look.
Oh, wow.
No, just the eyes, and they're covering the eyes.
That's amazing.
Isn't that beautiful?
And then what does he buries himself? And then
Just
does he
hiding.
just wait for the bacteria to multiply?
Yeah, Holly is frankly doing better in the pants department.
Would you bury yourself in sand?
Well, that's how I got thrush in the first place.
Grit.
A roller coaster might make you queasy, but what can it cure? Yes.
Thrush.
Actually, that thrush with that thing between your legs, that's going to make it worse.
God, I went and did Go Ape yesterday. It was quite something in terms of the harness, remember?
It's not comfortable.
Been used by a lot of other people.
Are you suggesting it has chafed many thighs?
I'm suggesting that the harnesses can communicate with one another.
So what happens on a roller coaster?
Hiccups. Will it cure hiccups?
I would imagine it might cure hiccups.
I got stuck on a roller coaster at Alton Towers.
Oh, see, my idea of hell.
Yeah, I got stuck in the black hole.
What?
This is the kind of audience I want for my anecdotes.
What is the black hole, Danny?
So it's a roller coaster in the dark.
No.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
If I'd have been there, you would have felt a hell of a lot happier. Lighting it up.
And it's one of those roller coasters where you're straddling someone.
Sorry, you...
Hang on a
What?
minute.
So you get on, and you both in like a cart, and one of you has to sit with your legs out, and then the other kind of sits like...
Oh, OK. And you were the one with the legs out?
I was the one with the legs out.
Were you with the stranger? Did you not need...
Yes!
Why? Oh! Why? Where are your
'Cause
friends?
I was in a 3, and those two paired up,
Okay.
and I wasn't gonna like miss out on the black hole, and then we just ran out of momentum. I mean the cart, not like the conversation. And we were there for about 5 minutes, just sat there. At one point, you could hear the other carts coming down. It was absolutely terrifying. And then they got us off in the end, and they went, "You can have free tickets to go again." We were like, "No!"
Just the guy had a soaking wet back from where you pissed yourself.
So it is the back that we are thinking about, OK.
Sciatica.
Well, no, something much more painful. Possibly even more painful than childbirth. It's considered to be one of the most painful things you can have in the world.
Kidney infection.
It's kidney stones.
Kidney stones.
It's kidney
Is that
stones.
more painful than childbirth?
I have had them. Unbearably painful. So in 2018, an Ig Nobel Prize was awarded to 2 urologists who discovered a really quick way to quash kidney stones. So they had several patients who said they'd passed kidney stones when they were on a roller coaster. So they made a silicone cast of a kidney. They filled it with actual urine. They added 3 artificial kidney stones and they took it on Disney World's Big Thunder Mountain. And apparently, most effective is riding at the back of the coaster. Passage rate of 64%.
Wow!
Yeah, compared to 17% if you sit at the front. So much better to sit at the back.
Is there somewhere, like, just pictures of 2 people than a picture of a kidney on a roller coaster?
Anyway, the roller coaster study, not the first time that frightening rides have been used in medicine, so this is bizarre. In the 1920s, doctors prescribed scary plane flights to cure deafness.
What?
There was a theory that some deafness had psychological origins and you could overcome this by being terrified.
He thought he was just going out for a bike ride.
Well, what they were told as they got onto the flight was that it was the altitude that was going to cure them. They were not expecting any acrobatics. So you can imagine when they did a loop-the-loop, that if it was psychological, the deafness definitely went. Everybody could hear them screaming at that point. Yeah. Even the great aviator Charles Lindbergh advertised deaf flights on his business card. It was considered quite a thing.
But
There's no evidence that it worked at all. None. Now, what can you tell me about Philip the Missionary's position?
I once sat behind him on a roller coaster.
Who's Philip the Missionary, also known as Philip the Evangelist? Anybody had a religious upbringing at all?
I can sing Lord of the Dance, if that's what you mean.
That's so tempting.
Go on.
No, why did
You
I
brought
say
it
that? Dance then, wherever you may be.
I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you there, wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he.
So in a word, no idea who he is.
Is he in the Bible, then?
Which bit of the Bible?
It'll be in the New Testament, surely.
It's in the New Testament, you're absolutely right. He's in Acts. He's an evangelist. So he tours the Middle East, performing miracles and preaching.
You couldn't get tickets, though, could you? It's hard.
So here's...
It's very weird when you've got all your hair is on the bottom of your head.
It does look like you could flip his head, doesn't it? Just flip it over like that.
And then your mouth will be at the top, though. That'd be weird. And your eyes will be under your mouth.
Yeah.
And every time you ate, you get food in your eyes. But at least your hair will be in the right place. But when it rains, all the water will go down your nose.
It'd be so beautiful. It'd be like the those fountains in what are those fountains called in the fountains called in Las Vegas where they Bellagio. Oh my God, I cried when I saw those.
They're the ones where they fire out and land in a hole.
No.
They're my favourite films.
Honest to God, it's like being in an old people's home.
He toured the Middle East, did he?
Yeah, he toured the Middle East.
Right, Josh wants to sing Lord of the Dance again.
I saw a fountain once.
Did you?
OK.
So he toured the Middle East.
So he
Tell us about the dark room again.
When we going on a roller coaster?
You said we was going on a roller coaster. I never pissed myself.
I've got
Who pulled the train? What kind of person pulled the
Eunuchs.
train? Eunuchs! So, this is him baptising a eunuch. Here's what happens. When the eunuch lifts his head up...
Oh, I didn't know what you were going to say. I really didn't.
So what happens is the eunuch lifts his head up, he's been baptised, and Philip has disappeared. So the eunuch never saw him again, but went away on his way rejoicing. Meanwhile, Philip found himself further north at the town of Azotus. So it seems to provide the Bible's only example of teleportation, because there's a moment he's there, and the next minute he's in a completely different town. So here's the question, Philip aside.
Yes.
Do you think that humans will ever teleport?
Yeah.
Yes, OK, Holly, why?
If you think about it, 10 years ago we didn't have Uber, and now we've got Uber.
Yeah.
And that's as good as teleporting, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's just the thing.
There's been times when I don't remember how I got home, and then I've looked at my emails and I realised I got an Uber receipt, and I thought, That's as good as
Teleporting.
teleporting.
Well, here's the extraordinary thing, is that we have already done it, although not to ourselves. We are heading into quantum physics, but fear not, it is not difficult at all. So quantum physics is essentially the study of extremely small particles, so atoms, electrons, photons, which are...
Molecules?
Light particles.
Light particles.
So, in 2017, China teleported information from a photon into outer space using a process called quantum entanglement. So, now, let me explain this to you. I want you to imagine this is a single energised photon. What you can do with a photon is you can fire it from a laser into a crystal, and you can effectively turn it into two not quite so charged photons. So you have to imagine now that this is two photons, but they are effectively still the same banana, the same photon. It's just that we have separated them. Now, I'm going to take this bit of it and I'm going to chuck it to you, Carriad. So I need you to imagine that you are in a spacecraft, you are 500 kilometres away from the Earth. You're in a Chinese spacecraft. Are you ready?
Yep.
There we go. Fantastic. OK.
Tell you what, at least you didn't make a meal of it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write something on this. And this is the astonishing thing. It is 500 kilometres away. I have written Alan. If you then show yours, imagining that it is now 500 kilometres away, it too says Alan on it. Whatever you did to the photon that is left on Earth, exactly the same thing will happen to the photon that has gone out into space. And we don't know why. We shouldn't feel bad that we don't know why. Einstein did not understand it at all. It freaked him out. He called it spooky action at a distance.
Oh, I get it. Now I get it.
So here is the weirder thing. We could pair this bit of banana, if you like, with an orange.
Wait, we're pear, orange or banana?
If I then did something to the orange, it too would appear on that bit of banana. I'm trying to use fruit as an example, but basically I could pair another photon, a third one, to this one on Earth, but it is still having the same existence.
God, I feel really weird.
So you basically, when you teleport, you're going to make a version of yourself elsewhere, and then you can do whatever you like to it.
In a way, you're right, Alan. The trouble is that we just don't know enough about it.
I do know, though.
What
I
do
know
you-
what it is.
OK.
2 words for you.
Yes.
Fax machine.
What I like is how you've kept so up to date.
I did a documentary about quantum physics for Horizon.
Did you?
I can highly recommend it. I've learned a lot, but
Yeah.
it's...
Go on.
Once all the experts had left the room, oh, my God, you can't really retain it or use the knowledge. They showed me a laser beam split in two in the National Physics Laboratory, and they told me that it was impossible, and then they did it.
Were you at a magic show?
Then they chopped Debbie McGee into it.
Hopefully it's on YouTube, and you could watch it.
I will check it out. Anybody know why teleporting took place in Star Trek? What was the reason for it?
Oh, was it like a budgetary thing for the show?
Yes.
They didn't want to have to show the transition.
It was too expensive to show the Enterprise always landing and taking off on different planets. So Gene Roddenberry, who was the creator of Star Trek, that was his workaround. They simply couldn't afford for
Just doing a background. Carry on.
I thought you were making sex noises.
Wow, Holly, it really has been a while, hasn't it? Holly has
Start doing that while you're in the dark room. Coming from another car elsewhere.
No, that other car is singing Lord of the Dance, make it right.
I'm trying to explain quantum
I know, you're doing very well. When's lunchtime?
Watch the Horizon documentary, move on.
All right.
If any topics come up with shows that I've done, can I plug them as well?
Yes, darling. It is seriously like an old people's home now, isn't it? Oh, I used to be on the television. Oh, yes, years ago.
I've got thrash.
Right, moving on. Where would you go for a 6-week quickie? Josh?
Alton Towers.
So what kind of quickie things are there that you might do in 6 weeks?
A quickie in 6 weeks?
Divorce, quick divorce.
Oh,
Yeah, so...
6 weeks?
From the turn of the 20th century, people travelled from all over America to Nevada. It was the place to go for a quickie divorce. So they reduced the residency requirement for seeking divorce from 6 months to 6 weeks. And also, they made it fantastically easy. There were 9 grounds why you could get divorced. They applied them unbelievably broadly. There was a man who got a divorce on the grounds of extreme cruelty, and it was because his wife had too many cats. I mean, it really was.
She had too many cats?
Yes.
Did they name how many?
They didn't say how many. For me, 1.
2. There's one there, I go upstairs, there's another one!
And this carried on right up until the 1970s. In fact, they think it's how the state survived the Great Depression, because no other state allowed such lax grounds for divorce, and they were divorce hotels, where you could go and the couple could do the 6 weeks of residency. They especially targeted women, and dude ranches were developed, where women would go for 6 weeks sunbathing, riding horses, drinking cocktails, fraternising with the famously attractive male staff. It was marketed as Renovation because it was in the town of Reno. It was one of the most popular places. And women would often arrive with a male cousin who they married as soon as the divorce went through. They held an annual wedding derby to see who had officiated at the most marriages in a year. And 1947 Judge William McKnight won. He had officiated at 5,888 weddings, pretty much 16 a day.
Whoa.
Just going through. And now for a classic snack to go with a classical question. So, anybody got some snacks here? OK.
I'm looking forward to these.
Yeah.
How can you squeeze the maximum number of quivers into the smallest possible space? Yes, Josh.
Oh, no, Josh! It's the...
Yeah.
I'm going to share yours now, Sandy.
Oh, my.
Unbelievably delicious, isn't they?
No.
Bad luck.
I like twiglets. I met a man in Sainsbury's dressed as a twiglet.
You were dressed as a twiglet.
No, I didn't even know it was a job you could do. I would have definitely done it. Anyway, quaver, where do we get the word from, do you think, the actual word quaver?
Is it French?
No, so we're going to go Middle English. What do you think it meant to quaver?
Middle English, did you say?
Middle English, yeah.
What, so quavers have been around since medieval times?
No, the word. I think this batch has been around since medieval times.
Does it mean to quiver?
It does mean to shake or
shake.
It's
tremble.
a letter S, look at that, isn't that weird?
Oh.
You are so easily pleased.
Oh, this is...
That is how I imagine the scene from Alan's documentary.
So it began as a meaning of shake and tremble. Then it became singing in a sort of tremulous voice. Do you remember when women in church always say...
Wherever you may be.
Yeah, it's like Josh was in the room. And then it became the name of a musical note. Anybody know how long a quaver
Is it quarter?
It's an eighth. There are semi-quavers, which are 1/16th, followed by a demi-semi-quaver, which would be... a 32nd, a hemi-demi-semi-quaver, which is 64th, and a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver, which is a...
Danish wizard.
120.
We're referring to the same quaver.
What did you say, Josh? What did you say? 128?
128.
128. So these notes are quite rare.
Why is it so rare?
So it's rare because it's so fast. So if you took a work in 4/4 time, so with a tempo of 100 beats per minute, a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver would last for just 0.02 seconds. So that is too short for the human ear to distinguish.
Oh, yeah.
But in fact, Beethoven and Mozart used them to describe brief, rapid sections in particular movements. The shortest note in any published work is a 1024th note, which should be called a quasi-hemi-demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver.
That's his brother.
Yep. And it appears in Anthony Philip Heinrich's Toccata Grand Chromatica, which is written around 1820.
Somebody's pleased with themselves, isn't it? I've used a semi-demi-quiver.
Those glasses look no use to anybody, do they? They're too small.
They're smug glasses. They're intended to make you feel stupid.
So this is one of the rare uses of this 1024th note. But in the very first manuscript, an extra bar was added to the note, which meant it was actually miswritten as a 2048th note, which would be a demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver.
Oh, my God.
There it is. Look at that. That is... I mean, how fast would that... Ridiculously.
Madness.
Yeah, bonkers.
So could we hear? Like, what's the shortest note that we could hear?
There is a thing called Extreme Piano Channel on YouTube.
Whoa!
Where it is...
Do you know what else is on YouTube, Sharon?
You've all got some instruments beside you. Why don't you bring out your instruments? What I want you to do, you've got 5 seconds. I want you to play the same note as many times as you can and count how many times.
Counting
5...
and playing.
Did you used to do that game at school where you'd try and start a stopwatch as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that game and it was so good.
OK, are ready? 5 seconds going now. Up. OK. Holly, how many? Alan.
Alan, the bus is here.
How many, Holly?
I lost count about 12.
After about 12, Alan? You've no bloody idea. Kellyanne.
34.
34?
Honestly,
Yeah?
37.
Oh, Josh wins that one. That's
I mean,
very
it's
impressive.
a hollow victory if you happen to give your own score when you know what the other scores are.
And most piano key presses in 1 minute is 824, which is 68 and a half every 5 seconds. It's a Portuguese-American pianist. He's astonishing, called Antonio Domingos, and you can see his work on Extreme Piano.
Does he just do all the same notes again and again, or is it like a tune?
No, it was just one note, but he played it with 2 fingers. Most claps in a minute? How many claps do you think?
Well, the flamenco people
About
can go very, very
400? No, 300.
About 300, anybody else?
200.
1,080.
Wow.
By a 9-year-old.
What?
I know.
He's called Seven Wade. 180 every 10 seconds.
Well, just for fun, he's not even doing flamenco.
He had his toe in a plug socket.
I absolutely love him in my audience on tour.
Right, quavers away, instruments away. For what sort of business would you want to use a queer plunger?
I once had a nightmare with a plunger. So we had a New Year's Eve party, and then the next day our toilet was blocked. And I thought, I'll nail this. I'd never used a plunger before.
Right.
Difficult to use.
Yeah, I thought I'd just whack it down there. Whacked it down, and it suctioned just onto the bottom of the toilet. Brought it up. All I had was the piece of stick. And now I didn't just have to unblock the toilet, I had to get my hand in there to get the plunger.
OK, so queer plunger, what might you plunge into?
The ocean.
Well, so water. You might plunge into water. It was a term given to con men who took advantage of the rules of the Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned.
Oh.
So, set up in 1774, it's 2 London doctors. They were worried that too many victims were being wrongly pronounced dead and sometimes buried alive. And so they developed new techniques of resuscitation. They offered a reward of 4 guineas, which is over £500 today. It's a lot of money, to anybody who successfully brought a drowned man back to life. Well, swindlers paired up with each other. So one would throw themselves into the river and pretend to drown, and the other would jump in and rescue him from the brink of death, and the 2 of them would then share the 4 guineas. And they became known as queer plungers. How many of you around the table know about W.C. Fields?
Yeah, the cricketer.
No.
That's W.G. Grace.
He was an amazing early 20th century actor and comedian. One of his very first jobs was to drown several times a day. So he worked at Atlantic City, and he would pretend to swim out, and then he would pretend to drown, and somebody would come and rescue him, and a great crowd would gather, and they'd all applaud because he'd been saved, and they were all so thrilled. And then they would buy beer and hot dogs, and it was the beer and hot dog guys who paid W.C. Fields to drown several times a day. The Netherlands was the first country to have a society for resuscitation. Why the Netherlands?
People falling in canals.
Lots of water, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a really simple answer, isn't it?
They have fjords as well.
No,
No.
don't have fjords there.
Have you?
For God's
No.
sake.
No. You know, Netherlands is famously flat and fjords are famously steep.
Right.
So, no.
You know what? I'm just glad I didn't say it on national television.
No, that's a good thing. So the very first society, 1767, the Netherlands Society for Resuscitation, and they had incredibly strict rules about what you should do in order to bring a drowning person back to life. So first of all, you've got to take them inside, then you've got to take their wet clothes off, and then you've got to rub them with woolen materials to warm them up. And maybe, if you really feel it's necessary, give them tobacco smoke up the rectum.
They used to do it in London as well. Do you know how I know that?
Yes.
We had it on this show
It
about
did indeed. It was considered an effective means of resuscitation.
My sister fell in a canal.
Did she?
One of the best days of my life. So we went on a canal holiday in Birmingham, and
Does that go through fjords?
it's got more miles of canal than Venice, Birmingham.
I do know this.
Doesn't make it a better holiday.
No.
And my sister fell in, and there was panic, and my dad was shouting, "Get the camera! Get the camera!" And then she found her feet, because it was only about that, and my brother threw the plastic polo, and it hit her on the head and knocked her out.
I thought you were going to say your brother threw her the camera.
So there were other things you had to do. You had to do bleeding for the arms and neck. You had to pour liquor down the throat and then place the person in a preheated bed with a naked person next to them.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, to provide natural
Yes,
heat.
yes, because that's what happens when you're a keen bivouacker, like I was as a teenager. You,
No wonder you got thrush.
You learn that if somebody gets quite severe hypothermia, that you should both strip off, get inside a plastic bag together, and just keep each other warm.
OK, who told you this?
Was it someone holding a massive bin liner?
Come on, Holly, come on, in you come.
We've got to stay warm, Holly. Kayla said.
Is this why you're at Go Ape? Yes.
Now we come to the quintessentially QI brand of torment that is general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the tallest building in Europe?
The Shard.
Isn't the Shard?
Well, it is the Shard.
I'm in charge. It's not the Shard. I will give you that the Shard is the tallest building in the EU at the time of recording. Possibly not at the time of broadcast. The top 4 are all in Russia.
Oh.
The Lakhta Centre in St. Petersburg tops the list at 463 metres. Look at that, it's astonishing. Tallest building in the world, anybody know?
I think I went up it in Dubai.
Yes.
It is in Dubai, you're absolutely right. It's called the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
This is astonishing. It is nearly a kilometre high, and it means that at the top of it, the sun sets more than 3 minutes later than at ground level. Oh, wow. That is how high the building is. And during Ramadan, there are clerics who have pointed out that Muslims who live and work there, they have to stop fasting at different times depending on what floor they're on. Yeah, so there's one Dubai cleric. He reckons that people living above the 80th floor should fast for an extra 2 minutes. And those on the 150th floor and above should fast for an extra 3 minutes.
I was doing a gig in Dubai, and with Jack D, we went up to the top of that. You've never seen someone less excited.
Europe's 4 tallest buildings are all in Russia, with the Shard coming in a paltry 5th. What shouldn't you do to a sleepwalker?
Kill them.
Yeah. Absolutely fair. Shouldn't do that. That's one thing.
Oh.
Go on, say it. Go on.
Yeah, it's wake him up, isn't it? Oh, all right. Good work undone.
You were winning up until then. Now you're stuffed. Contrary to popular myth, there's nothing wrong with waking a sleepwalker. I mean, they might be slightly disorientated at first, but it's much safer than leaving them to walk around the corridors unconscious.
It's just not as funny.
It depends how you wake them up.
Yeah, boo.
If you wake them up by picking them up and putting them in the middle of the road.
Here's the thing, injuries are not uncommon. Injuries are not uncommon amongst sleepwalkers because they walk into things and it's better to save them. Although, here's the thing, the most recent studies show that you don't feel any pain when you are sleepwalking.
You're just so relaxed.
You're just very chilled. Of the 47 sleepwalkers in this study who reported suffering an injury while they were asleep, only 10 actually woke up. There is a thing where people actually act out their dreams.
Yeah.
So sleepwalking tends to happen at the deepest stage of sleep. There's another disorder called REM behaviour disorder, or RBD. So what they do is that people often crawl or run in their sleep. So
My
if they're...
granddad used to cycle. He used to kick the covers off and his legs would be going like that, and my granny would be like, "Stop it, Bill, stop it!"
He won a stage of the Tour de France.
I had a dream the other day that I was in New York and my husband said I was lying in bed doing this.
What was that, darling?
I think it's just me walking down a sidewalk.
I love it that when you go to New York, you get a kind of American-Italian attitude.
Did you think you were in Saturday Night Fever? If you see someone sleepwalking, wake them up before they hurt themselves. What age did women tend to get married in the olden days, say 300-400 years ago?
So that's like, what, 1700?
Wow. Maths and geography.
It's an irresistible package.
So what do you reckon? How old do you think women were when they got married?
Is the picture a clue?
No, it's just a really cute picture.
Oh, OK.
Was it older or younger? It's either going to be 14 or 28.
What do you want to go?
I'm going to go 28.
You're going to go for 28.
Is it older than we think? Is it sort of like 25?
It is older than we think, so we're talking about 1700s.
21.
I was right, thank you. Can I get a point for that?
You're lucky still to be having a chair, frankly. The average age for women was 25 to 26 to get married. Men were 30. So, and that was actually older than in the 1970s.
Even all those men coming out of that tent on the right with the hats. Tiny people marrying. Ding, 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 ding.
I didn't know you sang theme tunes.
It's a show called Tiny People Marrying that I did. I've got it on YouTube. I'll find it for you.
That's interesting.
Thank
in
you.
Pride and Prejudice, what's the name of the vicar? Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins. So Mr. Collins, it's always played as like this 45-year-old man, but he was actually about 28.
In the actual book.
In the actual book, yeah, but we have warped this sense that they're all much older.
I mean, I think we get a lot of it from royal marriages. So this picture is Richard II and Anne of Bohemia, so they were 15 and 16, respectively. For the average person, they were much older. Even in medieval times, women didn't marry till their early to mid-20s.
But also with the royal marriages, they would be married, but then they would be...
Well, sometimes they got married at birth.
Yeah, exactly. Then they weren't, like, putting a flat together with some toasters and a kettle.
Today, the average age for women in the UK to get married?
62.
30?
29.
It's 31 and men are 33. But apparently the best age to pair off is 26.
That's interesting.
So there's a Princeton professor called Tom Griffiths, and he has proposed that this is the best age because you are 37% through completing a task within a set time frame. And at this point, you have reached the perfect point in which to decide.
It's probably the worst marriage proposal.
It is, yeah. What they're suggesting is if you choose too early, you're going to miss out on better options later on. If you choose too late, better options will already be off the table.
Oh, really?
There's similar maths choosing the best toilet at a music festival. To maximise the chances of getting a clean one, apparently the same maths works, because you don't want to waste time looking at them all. If there's a row of 100, you should check the first 37, OK? And decide which is the cleanest of those, and as soon as you find a cleaner one than that, use that one. So you still have to look at 38, 39, 40 toilets.
I've got a system with festival toilets.
Have you?
So you stand and you wait, and you look at... As people come out, if they can look you in the eye, that toilet's fine. But if they look at you and they kind of, with a kind of fear, don't go in that toilet.
I'm the same with planes. When you see the pilot come in, if they can look you in the eye...
Choosing a partner is a lot like choosing a portaloo. You might end up wishing you'd just done it in the woods. All right, final question. What activity causes carpal tunnel syndrome?
Masturbation.
Well, I should hope it's not masturbation, because my grandma had it. She didn't seem the sort.
It's an RSI thing, right? Isn't it quite common with typing and that sort of thing?
Who knows knows what carpal tunnel is?
It's where the tendons get inflamed.
Yeah,
on
so
your
it's the
wrist.
canal
Yeah.
that connects the arm and the hand. It's in
Yeah.
the wrist, and various tendons pass through it.
Yeah.
And what happens is, when one of these swells up, it compresses on the nerves that are inside this channel, and it leads to pain, numbness, and tingling. And
It's really painful.
It's unbelievably painful. You won't get it pretty much from typing or from playing video games or any of those things. Those cause problems like tendinitis.
Yeah.
It's idiopathic. So idiopathic means we don't know. It is an unknown cause, the swelling.
Oh, yeah, I'm still wrong twice.
That's been our pleasure. But the chances of getting it are increased with obesity, pregnancy, smoking, arthritis, diabetes, any of those things. The only work-related activity that we absolutely know it is related to is the long-term and repeated use of vibrating hand tools.
So in a way, Alan was right.
In 2018, Kim Kardashian, she revealed that the doctor had warned her to stop taking selfies because she had injured her wrist from doing so many. What? So when she was filming an advert, she recruited one of her production assistants to take her selfies for her. Now, this is a marvellous concept, to have somebody, you're so rich, that you have your own selfie taker. So I have decided we need a selfie elf. So, Anna, if you're going to come on, please, and be our selfie elf. Yep, thank you very much. So I've got to stick now. So if you could all come in for the selfie. No, it'll just...
I reckon this is going to be more popular than the Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, I got this. But you can't be in it, darling. No, because you're the selfie elf. I'm not having you in it. No. It's not a thing. So, are you in? Are you in? If you're taking selfies or playing computer games, you won't get carpal tunnel syndrome, but you should probably get out more. Which leads us to the scores in first place with... Oh, no, it's supposed to be on here. Where's the thing? Oh, there it is. In first place with 2 points, it's Holly! In second place with 1 point, it's Carrion! In third place with -5, Josh! And in last place with -27, it's Alan! Thanks to Carrier, Josh, Holly and Alan. And I leave you with this quintessentially QI quote from quondam quipper Oscar Levant. What the world needs is more geniuses with humility. There are so few of us left. Good night. Good evening. Welcome to QI, where tonight we'll be quarrelling with each other all night long. Here to query everything I say are quick to criticise Jason Manford. Constantly quibbling Aisling B. Quashing all opposition Anuvad Pal. And, oh, will you be quiet, Alan Davies. We've got some particularly pugnacious buzzers. Jason goes... Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? Oh. Aisling goes...
Sounds like my... Pre-watershed. So sorry. So sorry.
Anuvad goes...
I was hoping the attention wouldn't come to me after that.
And Alan goes...
Oh, yes, it is!
Wow. The audience are so pleased with themselves, they can't carry on.
Now I'm in.
What happens when you quarrel with the bellower?
Quarrel's one of those things that only English people say.
Why would you not say it? What's wrong?
It's not a word I would use. No, like, it sounds like something like a teacher would say if you'd had a proper fist fight with another kid at school, and then when they got your mum and dad, they were like, I'm afraid Jason and Jamie have had a quarrel. Like,
I'm new to London, and I'm beginning to realise that when someone has a dispute or a quarrel, the English language works at 2 levels.
Yes.
I realised in Britain, when someone says to me, Anuvab, I have a slight issue.
Ah.
Yeah. It means I've killed their whole family.
Yeah. I think that is entirely true. OK, so the Bellower is the nickname of an actor called James Quinn. He was the leading actor in London in the first half of the 18th century.
What has he come as now?
Well, that apparently is him giving his Coriolanus.
Is it really?
I think it's more anus than Coriolanus. He was unbelievably quarrelsome, and he actually killed 2 people in duels and wounded multiple others. He had one of the loudest voices in show business. He also did excessive gesticulation, and he left extremely long pauses. These were all the hallmarks of a great actor at that time. So would-be actors were schooled in 3 different pauses. There was moderate, longer, and grand. And because you're all natural performers, I thought we would see how you would fare on stage in Quinn's era. So we're going to act out what's written on the script cards that you've got on the desk. So Jason and Anuvab, a bit of quarrelling, please, from Titus Andronicus. Very loud, very big gestures,
Yes.
pausing.
OK, here we go. Villain, what hast thou done?
That, sir, which thou canst not undo.
Thou hast undone our mother.
You do know after that. That's very good.
I was taken aback for it.
Yes, no. Do a grand pause.
Villain, I have done thy mother.
That's an early your mum joke from Shakespeare there.
I like that.
He invented the word quarrelsome, actually. It's, in fact, the only word he coined beginning with Q. It comes up in As You Like It and in The Taming of the Shrew. Right, Alan and Aisling, I've got an EastEnders-style script for you. I'm actually going to take a small part in this myself.
Oh.
I know. So, you know, big gestures, big pausing. Here we go.
OK.
Oh, Aisling, I'm having some real barney rubble with me old trouble and strife. She found a pair of your Anna Wickers in my Lucy locket.
Oh, Alan.
You absolute donor. You need to be more careful.
Now, what's this all about?
Stay out of this!
You cow!
You can shoot.
Say this cow. You're not my mum.
Actually... she is.
See that making a comeback as a style. So Quinn killed 2 people. The first man he killed was an actor who mispronounced Cato as keto on stage.
I'm like that with Pacific and specific.
Oh, yeah.
I just take them out long range.
So Quinn mocked him in front of the audience, and the guy decided to challenge him to a duel, and in fact he was killed.
He mocked somebody?
Yes.
What did the other bloke look like?
He only got done for manslaughter, and that was it. Well, he just went back to work, frankly. He was a notorious womanizer. There's a marvellous story. He once invited a married woman to his boudoir, and then he realised he'd forgotten his key, so he thought, oh, no, I'll take her to a brothel. And anyway, awkwardly, her husband happened to be there. And the husband walked in on them, you know, in flagrante, and in the ensuing fight, Quinn stabbed him in the leg.
One of the funny things that used to happen in British India during the Empire was there would be a lot of duels among Englishmen for petty things.
Oh, right.
They'd fall in love with someone locally, or it would be over wine or whatever, which is very confusing for the locals because they expected the guns to be pointed at them.
They're pointing at each other.
Yeah, and I came across some notes between 2 governor-generals who were fighting, and one of the big issues was back then they couldn't get the logistics right. So they said, I'll see you on Thursday He's like, Thursday, sir, I'm taking my daughter for a walk.
I'm going to kill you Thursday. Can't do Thursday.
We've got 5 aside Thursday.
So one said, look, they went on for 5 years, but they couldn't fix a meeting.
I love that. Quinn's big rival at the time was David Garrick, great famous actor.
Oh, David Garrick.
First actor, in fact, to move towards acting rather than shouting.
Where's my glove? Where's my glove? Props!
But they were friends, and Garrick eventually wrote the epitaph that is on Quinn's tomb in Bath Abbey.
That's the Garrick Theatre named after him.
Yeah. I mentioned that James Quinn was handy in a duel, but now let's see how you fare. So for this question, please start with your hands on your heads. We have changed your buzzers so they all make the same sound. Which of you is the quickest at pressing your buzzer? Go, 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 go. Oh, oh. Well, we know who was slowest. I'm just going to check with VAR.
Oh, yes.
Get the replay there. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah. OK. And the answer is... Jason. Jason, you were the winner. So, very good, but how would a Victorian have done it differently?
A Victorian?
Yes. It's whether you think the Victorians would have been quicker. Would they have beaten Jason?
No, I think slower.
Why, darling? Just because it's a long time ago?
Partly, and there's less things to, like, move out of the way of quickly.
You agreeing, Annabelle?
Yes. I mean, in that, a technology like a light bulb would need a bunch of chemical reactions and stuff to happen.
OK.
So would they, like, pull on something and a bunch of stuff would happen and a part of the house would explode?
No, no. OK,
You're thinking of Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We would think maybe that we would be quicker today, but really the Victorians had quicker reactions than we do today. What? So in the 1880s and 90s, there was a statistician called Francis Galton. He tested thousands of people to see how quickly they could react to lights and sound. And we have consistently got slower. So on average, about 10% over the past century. And we don't really know why. So possibly modern pollutants have had an effect on our brains. That is a possibility. Possibly... This one I don't like at all. It's because we're taller, is one of the reasons given. So our nerve impulses have got further to travel in our bodies, and so they take longer to get to their destinations. But it does seem to be that the Victorians were a bit faster than us. And do you think boys or girls are faster?
Say go.
I'm going to say...
Be careful, Jake.
Nice try, Sandy. Girls.
It's usually boys. But what they've discovered in the past 40 years or so is that the gap has decreased.
Boys are getting increasingly jumpy.
Yes. Maybe because women are now doing day-to-day things like driving, which they didn't do before.
That's what the boys are getting out of the way of.
Left-handed or right-handed people quicker?
Left-handed people are the devil, so I would say right-handed people, Sandy.
I'm left-handed, so I'm going to say right.
It's left-handed people. You did win.
Of course, I should have used my own experiment.
Yes.
Damn it.
It's probably because most right-handed people are very, very right-handed. In other words, most left-handed people, so yourself included, are more mixed. The two brain hemispheres of the left-handers tend to be more balanced and split their work more equally.
It's one of the lesser disabilities. Look, I don't want everything, just the blue parking badge. That's all I want. That's all I want.
Left-handed parking base. The right-handed people coming out carrying their phones on the left.
Yeah.
No, I'm left-handed.
Just stand there in the supermarket. In the supermarket, throwing apples. You caught it with your right hand. You're in the wrong spot.
The first scientist to measure reaction time in laboratory conditions was a Dutch ophthalmologist called Franciscus Donders in 1869. He found that we'd take 0.1 seconds to physically respond to a sudden noise. So why might that matter that we know that?
Alarms?
No, it's racing, sprinting races. So if you move in less than 0.1 seconds after the gun has gone off, it's a false start, because you could possibly have reacted that fast.
Oh.
Actually, Donders made another contribution to our lives. There's a gap between the back of the tongue and the hard palate, and it is known as the space of Donders.
Where was it?
Between the back of the tongue and the hard palate.
Right, okay.
Trying to find it now. I don't. It's hard to find. It's really more of a space.
There's nothing there, Stanley.
I know.
There's nothing
There's
there at all.
nothing there, no, darling, that is correct.
I don't want to really know how he ended up finding that.
Now that I know that, I feel like I have someone else's real estate in my mouth.
I know.
You're
It's a
telling me?
sign to let.
Another bloody weekend, that's what I call that.
Quickest reaction time of any animal is the condylostylus fly, or the long-legged fly. This is an extraordinary creature. You find it mostly in the USA. It takes just 2 milliseconds for this fly to respond to a stimulus. So, say you try to take a picture of it and the flash went off, it would have gone before the picture was actually taken.
How did they get this one?
I'm afraid he's dead, Jason. Its reflexes are about 100 times faster than the fastest human reaction times.
Wow.
I know.
Look at its funny, hairy legs. Imagine if you just had 4 massive hairs on your leg. So when you shaved your legs, you had to kind of saw it a bit with a breath.
You must come over. Now, nothing is more likely to cause a quarrel than a badly ordered queue. So my question is, what's the best way to board a plane? The people are in the lounge and you want to board them onto the plane. What's the most efficient way of doing that?
Minimised hand baggage, all those wankers who can't be bothered to check their bags and come on like mules, like pack mules, fill up all the overhead lockers with their very important shit. And sit down farting all the way to Malaga. Sorry, what was the question?
There's lots of bitterness in this, isn't there?
I had a moment on a flight last week, actually, when I was flying from Aberdeen to Shetland, and I was with my tour manager, who's also a big chap, and we sit next to each other because we're pals, and there was hardly anyone else on the flight. It was only a small plane. And the stewardess came over and she said, Mr. Manford, Mr. Isaac, she said, would you mind separating and sitting on either side of the plane?
Oh, no. Weight distribution.
Weight distribution?
They're as heavy as a wing.
So he's going to land like this if it's...
Well, that's what you should have done. We will at the start.
Yeah.
But during the flight, we're going to set you a series of challenges. Zigzagging about the plane.
First time in the history of the world where turbulence is a person.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to think of you now, as turbulent.
That's me.
By the back row, then the next row, then the next row.
That is the most
like
common...
that.
Yeah, that is the most common way of doing it. It is also the least efficient.
Or in the middle and then fan it out towards the back and the front.
Take the top off the plane and have them all swarming over the top like that.
So there's an astrophysicist called Dr. Jason Steffen. He made a computer model and then he teamed up with a TV producer to get people to act out boarding planes in various different arrangements. So he compared boarding from the front, from the back, at random, and what he called Wilma boarding, which is window, middle, and then aisle. Nice. Block boarding, by far the slowest. That's the way the airlines currently do it. So they say this group of seats and then the next group of seats. The absolute best way to do it is board first the even-numbered window seats, followed by the odd-numbered window seats, then repeat with the middle seats, and then repeat with the aisle seats. It's rather complicated. And so he actually recommends just board at random. That would still be much faster than what we currently do.
You don't want too random, do you? You don't want to be on, like, 16 rows back and the pilot's there.
I was boarding recently, and this lady announced, we are boarding everyone not in Zone F. And then she said, and also not in Zone A, B, C, D, E. Then she paused and said, we're just not boarding.
I think there's 2 types of passengers. They're the ones who think that if anything happened to the pilot, they could probably be all right if they took over and got talked in.
Yeah, that's me.
And there's the other ones who would think there's no way they could do that.
I sort of fancy myself being able to fly a plane, you're right. I think I could bloody give it a go.
But don't you think that when you've watched a load of ER, for example, that you think, I totally could do that heart surgery?
I sort of feel like I'd be naturally good in emergencies. Like, I can't speak Spanish now, but I feel like if there was an emergency, I probably could give it a go.
Yeah. What kind of emergency suddenly requires Spanish?
I feel like there's a Spanish girl, Sandy. She's come in. She's choking. No one else in the hospital speaks Spanish.
Right.
Something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
She can mime, but we're not getting it.
No.
They haven't trained like me in the dramatic art of mime. Of course. And so she's all like, Madrid, Venezuela. And I'm like, don't worry. Penicillin. Penicillin. And then it'll just be like that for...
That poor child is dying, and you're the last thing she sees. Here's a randy scandy fact. There's another queuing study from the fine country of Denmark. Economists concluded the very best method of serving a queue is to serve the last person first. So, when you have a first-in, first-out system, it encourages people to queue. If the last person got served, nobody would start to stand in the queue because there'd be no point in it. Queues just cause backlog, and so it's much better to serve the last person first.
The way different people queue, you know, around the world can lead to problems. I had a friend of mine recently in Manchester went to use a cash machine. When he got there to the cash machine, there was a man already using the machine, and 6 foot behind the man, there was a woman sort of waiting her turn. So he says, are you in the queue for the cash machine? And she says, I'm Nigerian, and my religious beliefs are that because I don't know this man and we're not related, this is the distance that I feel safe and respectful, you know, to what I believe in. So because Steve's a very thoughtful person, he then stands 6 foot away from her, you know. It's like a 12-foot, 3-person queue out of nowhere. Then the man moved, and the woman moved to the machine to do her money business. Steve then stayed the 6 foot behind.
Perfectly nice.
And he was in his sort of little daydream, and another man come over and said, you in the queue for the cash machine? And Steve went to explain, but not loaded with all the information, said, I am, yeah, but I'm standing here because she's Nigerian. It's a minefield. Even when you're trying to be nice.
So, anyway, why might you put a mirror next to a lift? Any thoughts about this? We're talking about waiting?
Next to a lift or in a lift?
No, next to it. It's to do with you looking at yourself. People dislike waiting in line, but they do like looking at themselves. People don't complain if the lift takes a long time to arrive, if they can constantly see themselves. I love this picture, though, so we had an experiment to see if we could recreate this with all of you. So let's have a look. Are we able to do that? There. What do you think? I know!
Oh, it's Top of the Pops from the 70s.
I love it.
It's like a giant centipede.
That is brilliant.
That's really good fun.
Wow! Can we do like the swimming thing where we go...
This is
brilliant.
Beginning to look like a Bollywood movie.
It just keeps going after you're finished.
Do you know what I did there? I actually tried to catch myself. Oh, she had you. You had me.
It's like synchronised swimming on your own.
Brilliant.
Yeah, very good. Our queuing advice is to really rile people up by ignoring the instructions at an airport and standing on the left of an underground escalator. That's really upset you.
No.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I care about after Brexit.
Yeah.
Well, that's only down here that's a problem.
That is London.
It's
London.
only London. It's not even it's not even questioned anywhere else. Stand wherever you want.
You stand wherever you want?
Yeah, it's not a thing. Do what you want. Just a thing down here.
Stand on the right.
Not in anywhere else.
Fucking stand on the right.
Right. Who's famous for generating about 25,000 quarrels a year?
Piers Morgan.
Who's
Donald
that?
Trump.
What? Donald Trump, yes.
Oh. You got another one?
Yeah, Katie Hopkins.
You're doing well. That's the 3.
Yeah.
What might a quarrel be? It's a thing rather than it's a dispute?
Like a vase of some sort. Is it a...
Why do you think it's a vase? It's a lovely idea. Why do you think that?
I have no idea what it's...
Is it a hat?
No, so...
So it's not a vase and it's not a hat. You haven't left us with much, Sandy.
We are going to go back in time. So between the 10th and the 15th century, what was the principal weapon of war, do you suppose?
Stink bombs.
The plague.
The plague, no, the crossbow. And the bolt for a crossbow is called a quarrel. Oh. And there was a man called John Malamont, and he was England's chief quarrel maker in the 13th century. He made up to 100 a day, so he made about 25,000 quarrels per year. And the earliest crossbows, I mean, this is a sort of an image of one of the earliest ones. They were really, really difficult to operate because it was so tight to pull it back. So you had to get on your back, use the strength of both legs, your back and your arms, in order to pull the mechanism backwards. Then eventually they invented something called the crossbow stirrup, which meant you could put your foot in the thing and then pull backwards.
I mean, that looks like it can backfire pretty badly. That feels like before the adverts on You've Been Framed. Like, Harry Hill's like, what's going to happen after the break?
Can I ask you, Sandy, weren't there female crossbow people who used to chop off their
well,
backs?
you're thinking of bows and arrows, and you're thinking of the Amazons who allegedly cut off their left breast in order to make it easier. Actually, you'd have to... It depends on which... Yeah. You'd cut off your right breast so that the...
Oh, you'd be annoyed if you cut off the wrong breast.
Yes, I know.
Oh, joking.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. I was looking in the mirror.
It must have been really odd for them when cannons and bullets came about.
This is the thing. What happened was guns superseded crossbows in warfare, so you're talking about the 16th century, and eventually crossbows became reserved just for recreational use.
I bet when guns come out, there were some pretty annoyed one-titted women knocking about. Chopped off my tit for this!
In the end, it just became a sort of an entertainment thing. There'd be a procession, would be led by a paddle master. He was like sort of, you know, the ringmaster of the thing. But he would punish anybody who shot extremely badly by spanking them with his paddle.
Oh.
So a crossbow is essentially a horizontal and more refined version of the bow and arrow, which brings us to another cue, quivers. Where did Robin Hood keep his quiver?
On his back. Thinking the quiver, the thing you keep your arrows in?
It is the thing you keep your arrows in, but if Robin Hood existed, he would never, ever have pulled arrows from his back.
But you didn't realise there's a photograph of him on the screen.
I'm going to go with that Kevin Costner. When he played Robin Hood, he went from Dover to Nottingham via Hadrian's Wall, so he's probably not the best person to ask anything. The quiver, so it is the sack that you keep the arrows in, but it was stored on the belt. The only people that we know for sure wore it on their backs were Native Americans. There's one odd exception to this. There's a single archer in the Bayeux Tapestry who has the quiver on the back. There you can see top left there.
Oh, yeah.
So here we are, we're saying that you don't have the quiver on the back, apart from 50 million Native Americans and people at the Battle of Hastings. Otherwise, there's no evidence.
Except, darling, if you took this as the correct thing, all of those people have got their arrows on the wrong side of the bow, so it would immediately fall off. So I'm going to suggest to you the person doing the sewing was not worried about technical detail.
Yeah. So, Sandy, do you think this photograph was staged?
Yeah, just stand still. OK, I'm nearly there. Nearly got you. Now, what causes quarrels in the Batcave?
Oh. Oh, is it his parking when he comes back in after a fight? Maybe that. Maybe.
I used to love that show.
It was great.
Oh, it was wonderful. I didn't realise till quite late in my childhood that it was a spoof. Absolutely seriously.
I didn't know until now it was a spoof. Was it a spoof?
Well, they were playing for laughs.
So I'm not talking about...
Okay, are you talking about actual bats?
Actual bats.
Oh, you've
Yes.
fooled us with the photograph.
All right.
Is it hanging space? Not enough hanging space? Someone putting the light on in the middle of the night?
Maybe you're right, Alan, because it is almost exactly the stuff that we all fight about. So researchers recently translated the calls and squeals of bats. They played them to a computer with a machine learning algorithm, and they figured out the patterns in the noises and worked out what the sounds meant. And mostly, bats are complaining, OK? So most bat squeaks fell into 4 categories: arguing about who should get what food, arguing about who should sleep where. The females, what were they complaining
Cold.
about?
They're cold. No. The men are too hot.
Unwanted male advances is what the females were arguing about. And bats of either sex arguing because they think another bat is sitting too close to them.
If you could improve one of your senses really, really a lot, and maybe lose a bit on the others, what would you have?
I'd lose a bit of hearing.
Hearing?
You'd lose what?
I'd lose a little...
I'm thinking bats, right? They can't see anything, but they can hear everything, which is probably what they're complaining about. I think sight. I'd like sight.
Yeah. Like, I'm getting laser eye surgery in a couple of weeks.
Are you?
Like, well, my eyes are fine, but I'd love if they had lasers in them.
The other fascinating thing about bats is they have multiple different dialects, and they learn them from their mothers and from their peers. They use different tones of voice when they're speaking to different members of their group, and it's one of the only animals to do this. I mean, humans do it, and dolphins do it, and monkeys, but it's very, very rare. And they can actually single out a single bat in the cave to communicate with. And bearing in mind, in some caves, there are 20 million bats. And when they're annoyed, what do? They raise their voices. So, what the bat signal is really saying is, get away from me and don't touch my food. This next question is so controversial that Brazil and France almost went to war over it. How do lobsters get about? Yes, sir.
Oyster card.
I know, right? So what do you reckon? How do they get about? Yeah.
By black crab.
What do you reckon?
Do they just walk?
So it depends which side you're on. Brazil and France, they very nearly went to war over this. 1961, and the question was, do lobsters crawl or do they swim? So Brazilian law stated that all sea creatures that walked within certain distances of their seashore were exclusively theirs, but anything swimming was fair game. So the French came along, they found a nice spot to catch lobsters, and Brazil claimed that the lobsters were crawling along the coastal shelf, so they belonged to Brazil. France said they were swimming, and therefore belonged to the fishermen who were catching them. In actual fact, lobsters mostly walk, but they do swim occasionally. There was a Brazilian Navy oceanography expert. He argued that if lobsters can be considered fish when they swim, so could a kangaroo considered to be a bird when it hops. Very irritating. Anyway, tensions escalated.
Wow.
Brazil sent an aircraft carrier. France sent a warship. I mean, there's
The Brazilians, they're coming in, giving it all out.
You've all got lobsters, if you want to take them out. You've all got lobsters. Did you know that lobsters are left and right clawed in the same proportion that we're left and right-handed?
Yeah, I did know that.
So if you look at that one in the picture, it's clearly left clawed. And 10% of lobsters are dominant on the left claw, exactly the same proportions.
So some of them are left-handed and some of them are right-handed?
Yeah, well, it's 10%, exactly the same as...
But they use a right claw when they want to make it feel like it's someone else.
There's a long history of sea life causing international conflict. There's the turbot war, Canada and Spain, the crab war, North and South Korea, the oyster war, mackerel and cod wars, the prawn war, the squid war, the scallop conflict. Here's my favourite, the sprat spat. Latvia and Russia. Look at them all. They're a fantastic list of wars.
God, what a terrible way to get your medals. Like, no one would really respect you if you're like, yeah, no, I was in the scallop conflict of 1970. I've never really gotten over it, you know.
And showing off as well, like the crustacean sitting around saying, my grandfather fought in the first prawn war.
Right, lobsters away. How do you get a Dane fired up?
You tell them the end of the crime thriller series?
Oh, yes, yes, who did it? There's a lot of dead people in Copenhagen, aren't there?
Yeah.
Vikings settling quarrels, how might they do it?
Well, it's not with a quiet chat,
No.
is it?
So the fired up part is really important.
Do they make their weapons hot?
It's called skin pulling. There's a Nordic spin on tug of war. What you do is you get an animal hide, so walrus, seal or ox or something, and you use it as a rope, and the complainants pull at either end until one is yanked over. Here is the Scandi twist. Right. The whole thing happens over a fire. So whoever loses is dragged into the fire.
I think we used to do that, the Scouts.
So one of the sagas, there's a king, Yngvi, and he instructs the two opponents, Hastigi and Hjord, to a skin-pulling contest. And Hastigi gets naked, but he thinks that's going to give him some advantage, but he's eventually pulled into the fire, and the king regrets the whole thing. I mean, it's a horrible way of settling a war, isn't it?
Yeah.
The one I like is from 18th century Arabia. There was a Scottish traveller called James Bruce, so 1730 to 1794, and he reported on a town called Yanbu, so present-day Saudi Arabia. And the locals have been fighting for days, wasting the town's ammunition, all firing at each other. And in the end, to agree on how to end the conflict, they all agreed that everything that had happened that was bad was the work of one camel. So they seized the camel, they put it on trial, and they spent the whole afternoon shouting at it and then speared it and killed it, and that was the end. Yeah, justice was done. And now it's time for the hostile interrogation that we call General Ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the most dangerous part of this ship? Yes.
The buffet.
So you can see it. You can see it in this picture.
The lifeboat.
It is the lifeboats. You're absolutely right.
They're the most dangerous bit.
Yeah. So there was a safety study carried out by the Marine Accident Investigation Branch in 2001, and lifeboats killed more people than they saved in the UK and Australia over a 10-year period. In fact, they found it was the most common cause of death on board ship. It accounts for 16% of all lives lost. Almost all of the accidents happened during training or maintenance. And in the same time period, no lifeboat was actually used in an evacuation, so they didn't save any lives whatsoever. It is considered a really serious problem. Aeroplanes have a similar issue with their apparently life-saving devices. In fact, we can try them out now. We're about to crash land on water. Fortunately, your life jacket is under your seat, and since we know you always pay attention in the safety demonstrations, here we go. Brace, brace, brace. Find your... Go, find your life jacket. Find your life jacket. That's it.
Toggle.
Toggle. Stick it on. Inflate it. Bring it out. Very good. As far as we can ascertain, life jackets have never saved anybody's life on a modern commercial airline.
I feel like I overreacted then, if I'm honest.
So you're going to take them off, so if you just take them... Can you get them off? No.
No!
That's what they said.
Oh, my God. Do you remember when that plane crash landed on the Hudson?
I do, yeah.
Oh, when Tom Hanks was in the plane.
Yes. Only 33 of the 150 passengers who were on board had even managed to get hold of their life vests. And of those 33 who'd managed to find them, only 4 were wearing them correctly. They're only intended for planned water landings. In other words, when there's been advanced warning. And that hasn't happened for several decades.
Well, I often wonder that when I'm flying Heathrow to Edinburgh, they give it all that. I think, well, it'll have to be a good shot, mate. Where are you going to... right into Windermere.
Yeah. There's a woman called Cynthia McLean. She's the Federal Aviation Authority's principal cabin safety investigator. She says the best advice is leave the bloody life vest behind. It takes too long. And actually, the best thing you can do if you land on the water is get off the plane. So they could save an enormous amount of weight, airlines, if they just removed the almost useless life jackets. You save about 1 million gallons of fuel every year, but they don't do it. Why don't they do it?
Psychological comfort.
Yeah, we get psychological comfort from knowing there's a life
Why
jacket.
don't they replace them with parachutes? I've never understood that.
But if people can't put a life jacket on properly, who the heck is going to manage?
Why can't the plane be equipped with 2 enormous parachutes?
Yes.
So when it's going down, they just release 2 enormous parachutes and it floats to the
Yeah, like
ground.
Wile E. Coyote.
When you jump off a plane, you're strapped to another human being, right? When you're, like...
I mean, when you do sky jumping?
Sky jumping, yeah.
Oh,
It'd be quite good if every seat there was already someone sitting, you were strapped into them, and then in the event of an emergency, you jump with them.
No, I do not want to spend any flight, no matter how short, strapped to somebody else.
I do.
Right, moving on. Where did the Great Fire of London start? Ooh.
Go on, then. You think you know. Go on.
Let the audience get it.
Go on, then.
Put it in, yes! It's not nice, is it? It's not nice. Makes you feel stupid, doesn't it?
At the monument?
So, well, closer to the monument than we thought. So it did start at a bakery. It was a baker called Thomas Fariner, and he left his fuel out too close to the oven. But they've now discovered planning documents from 1673. It was an academic called Dorian Gerhold, and he revealed that the oven was actually situated on Monument Street. So it's about 60 feet east of Pudding Lane. And, of course, Monument Street wasn't called that then because...
There was no monument.
There was no monument.
Yes.
So the monument was built in 1677. Now, the thing about the monument is it's 202 feet tall because it was supposed to be 202 feet from where the fire started, but it's probably now too tall because it probably started much closer to the monument. What happened was there were lots of printers in the area and stationers and booksellers and so on, and they wanted to save all their paper, and they rushed to the vaults of St Paul's because they thought the thick walls would keep it safe. In fact, this vast amount of paper just became kindling, helped the fire spread, it destroyed the cathedral. Apparently, it was a gruesome sight. The collapse of St Paul's exposed corpses of people who'd been buried for hundreds of years. And the fire smouldered for 6 months. God. Destroyed 13,200 houses and 87 churches. And if you imagine the time, London, the most densely populated urban settlement in the world, how many people do you think died?
It's really low. It's about 5 or something.
So it was mentioned on QI on the D series that everybody thought it was very low, that maybe it was 5 or 6 people. They now question this. It's almost certain that it was hundreds of people who perished. The real problem is the deaths of the poor and even the middle class. Nobody's that bothered, so it goes probably unreported.
How many people were living in London at the time? Was it, like, a big place?
About 500,000 people living in London at the time.
Oh, OK.
But some people so burnt that you wouldn't know even that there was a body there.
Yeah.
And also, for 3 weeks after the fire started, the bills of mortality, which was the record of London deaths, went unpublished because the press itself getting burnt down. Right, moving on. The Great Fire of London didn't start on Pudding Lane, it started just next door. How should you position your hands when holding the steering wheel?
10 to 2.
Not anymore. Why not? We're no longer recommended.
Well, it's definitely not that.
Something has changed in cars since the origins of the 10 to 2 idea. What has changed in the actual development of cars? No, not seatbelts. Is what? Airbags is absolutely right. So if your hands are too close together, which is the 10 and the 2, it increases the risk of injury, and some of the injuries are horrific. Airbags inflate at up to 250 miles per hour.
Jesus.
Broken hands, entire hands, sometimes requiring amputations. There is a really stomach-churning injury called degloving. What? Yeah, very good.
So lifeboats, airbags, like, what, the paramedics just come round and slit your throat? Like, what's going on?
The best thing is like that, 9 and 3, because that way the airbag has got space to come up between your hands, keeps you out of the way.
I just steer with my cop. Just loop it round once.
Yeah.
The British driving test changed in 2018. What did they get rid of?
Oh, that's good. I failed my theory test 3 times last year.
Have you passed now?
No, she hasn't. I do believe I'm just too much of a genius to grasp something so simple. That's
I failed the practical 6 times.
What did they pull you up on?
I got to a junction, I looked right, I said, all right, your side.
I failed my test because when I was meant to go forwards, I went backwards.
They got rid of the turn in the road manoeuvre. That's gone, and that reversing around the corner has gone as well.
Yeah,
now...
good, that was hard.
Is that because that's creepy?
I also think parallel parking should do one. Because that's why we're so fat, because we keep trying to park closest to the place we need to be. But if you actually just find the nearest, like, easiest parking space, sometimes you can be 2 miles away.
Yeah. There's a wonderful survey they did in 2015 of the most common reasons people fail their tests. Unusual reasons for failing included, I thought a line of parked cars was a line of traffic, so waited behind it. I went too far forward at a zebra crossing and bumped the bumper on a pedestrian. And then argued it wasn't my fault as his outfit had made him blend in with the stripes. A good-looking man on a motorbike caught my attention, and without realising, I started to drive directly towards him. The instructor had to enforce an emergency stop because I nearly crashed straight into him.
Driving instructors, just as a type of people, are quite mean. I was getting my driving test, I sat down, he looked at me and he said, I don't think you're going to make it.
Wow. Wow, at least he wasn't a doctor. What's the definition of a species?
Type of a living thing.
A class of animal?
Well, here's the thing. There is no universal definition of a species.
Type of a living thing it is, then.
There's certainly at least 32 different definitions. So one of the things that people learn, if they're two different species, they can't produce viable offspring. So, for example, mules, which are horse-donkey hybrids, horses have 64 chromosomes, donkeys have 62, so mules end up with 63, which is an odd number, can't divide evenly into sperm and eggs, and so it's sterile. But it is not the case with different species combinations. So bonobos and chimps successfully interbreed. And zoologists estimate 88% of all fish species could happily interbreed. Quite a few fish species, like the swordtails in Mexico, are the result of two different fish species.
What about human and chimp? Asking for a friend.
Many different species can successfully breed with one another, although it is admittedly very hard to make a whale have sex with an oak tree. And with that questionable image in your minds, it's time for the scores. Well and truly quashed in last place with minus 37. It's Alan! In fourth place with minus 25, Jason. In third place with minus 17, Aisling. Second place with minus 9's the audience. And our winner today with a full 4 points, Anuvan. Which only leaves me to thank Anuvab, Aisling, Jason and Alan, and I leave you with this quick quotation from the quarrelsome Elizabeth Gaskell. I'll not listen to reason. Reason always means what someone else has got to say. Good night.